Every morning, the countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning, hello and welcome to Bazaar Morning Call. As always, we're coming to you from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. It's a very interesting morning as we're getting into the second half of the week. There is a legal challenge to the great Trump tariff juggernaut. We have plenty to talk about, lots of local cues as well. I'm Surbhi Upadhyay. With me as always is Nigel D'Souza, and today we have Rima in the house joining in. Hi guys, morning.
Hi, good morning. It's been a historical roller coaster ride, right, with Trump headlines. Sometimes tariffs are on, sometimes they're off. But as you said, this time, it's coming in from the court.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. And from the time Trump took over, we were getting used to MAGA, right? Make America great again. But now we have a new one, TACO, right?
What's this? What's TACO?
What's this?
Trump, again, chickened out.
Always chicken.
Always chicken.
Always chicken.
Wow, this is
I'll tell you another one. I was just looking at some feed overnight, and every time the press has asked him, when are we going to hear about this finally? A month ago, he said 2 weeks. 10 days ago, he said 2 weeks. And yesterday, he said 2 weeks again. So 2 weeks, or is it 2 week? So let's see.
There was another acronym. I don't know if you knew. ABUSA?
Yeah.
Oh God, you guys are really on fire with the acronyms today. Now, what is ABUSA?
That is anywhere but USA.
Anywhere but USA.
But today's one is TACO.
TACO.
Today's, the acronym for the day is TACO.
You'd say you'd counter that by saying that he's not actually chickening out. They've gone to the higher court, and this is going all the way to the Supreme Court. So actually, on that, let's
Federal court.
Let's get to it. So what we have is plenty of excitement post the U.S. market close. The market close was actually negative. U.S. indices were down about 0.5%. The Dow, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, they all ended with cuts of about 0.5%. But then this news came in. So the U.S. Court of International Trade has struck down Trump's reciprocal tariffs. There were 5 to 6 people who had gone to the court, businesses, U.S. businesses, challenging the reciprocal tariff order, saying that it is constitutionally not valid, and the court ruled in their favor. So the court, in fact, has said that the reciprocal tariff order needs to be vacated. And the court says that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, remember, it was this particular piece of legislation under which Trump, initiated these reciprocal tariffs on the 2nd of April. The court said that this particular act does not give him unilateral powers to pass a law like this. It needs to go through Congress. So therefore, the court struck this down. But the U.S. administration, as expected, they were very quick on the response. They've already gone and appealed this in the Court of Appeals at the federal circuit level. The sense is that this is not ending. I mean, these are the lower courts in the U.S. Eventually, this might go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Let's see, the legal challenge is on. In the interim, the market first reaction, as you would expect, is that of, relief. And that's what we're seeing across asset classes, starting with U.S. equities. So if you look at Wall Street futures, Nasdaq, Dow, S&P 500, I mean, they're up anywhere between 1% to 2%. Nasdaq, of course, being the most jubilant at this point in time. And this is also playing out across, the dollar index as well as yields. Actually, let's pull up the dollar index while we're speaking about it. Last I checked, the DXY had rallied about 0.5%, and it's once again back above the 100 handle. So watch out for this. On the yields front, the US 10-year is still at around 4.5%. So we don't have a massive reaction in the bond market just yet. Let's see. We'll see how this plays out as the US market opens and digests this piece of news. As I said, this is also not certain. The legal challenge is by no means done. This is going probably to higher court. So we'll see how this plays out. The other piece of news that the market was reacting very well to, especially in after hours, was Nvidia's numbers. And Nvidia's numbers, despite the fact that they're almost completely restricted from selling their chips to China, the numbers are better. The top line growth was 69%, which is more than what the estimates were. And of course, the company acknowledged the fact that they've had to take a $4.5 billion charge because they've been restrained from selling those chips because of security concerns to a big market like China. In fact, Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang said that the $50 billion Chinese market for AI chips is effectively closed for U.S. industry. I mean, he was very vocal in that analyst call in calling this out. But he then also went on to say that there is a very strong demand for their Blackwell chips, the other chips in the rest of the world. And that's where the beat kind of came in from. Nvidia shares in after hours are up almost 5-6%. So let's watch for this. So this coupled with that court order is getting the markets very, very excited. Some of that is playing out across Asia. Rima will talk about that in more detail in just a bit. Now, for us here, the issue is that the market at an index level is getting very, very narrow and range-bound. And we saw that on the index, Nifty, Bank Nifty, very, very range. The action is all in the mid-caps and the small caps. And we're seeing outsized earnings reactions wherever earnings are positive. Today, we have some interesting names like Bata. Bata is still weak. Cummins, well, estimates were weak. It's better than those weak estimates. So let's see how this goes. So watch out for specific stock reactions. Speaking of specific stocks, IndusInd Bank. Now, once again, the bad news just doesn't seem to be ending. Yesterday, the market regulator has come out with a scathing order. It has banned not just the ex-CEO Sumant Katpalia, but 4 others, key management personnel, from accessing the securities market on charges of violation of insider trading rules. What is SEBI saying? SEBI saying, remember, this was on the 10th of April when the announcements were made about the discrepancy in the derivative portfolio. And it seems that there was some selling of shares before that announcement was made to the public. So the allegation is, or the assessment of the regulator is, that these key management personnel acted on unpublished price-sensitive information and prevented, themselves from huge losses. So the notice has gone out. Not just that, SEBI is looking to impound close to 20 crores from these 5 personnel. So let's watch for this. We'll talk more about this from the experts as well. Need to see if this has an overall impact. IndusInd Bank, whether it's limited to that or whether there's a spillover impact, we'll see. Usually it's been ring-fenced around one stock and not the entire Bank Nifty. So we'll watch for this. Rima?
Well, back to the Asian markets, Asian markets are on the move. So this latest headline on the tariff block seems to have triggered buying across the Asian markets. Kospi is leading the gains, 1.7% up. Nikkei is up 1.6%. You've got the Taiwanese markets also higher, as you can see, by close to about 0.6%. Hang Seng muted gains, but gains nonetheless. But as we said, the bigger moves are in Kospi and Nikkei, where gains are about 1.5 to 2%. The big cues in Dalal Street today, one are the flows numbers. But remember, yesterday we had that very large BAT stake sale in ITC. So numbers are skewed on account of that. But yesterday we had the DIs buying 7,900 crores, while the FIs net bought 4,662 crore. So that's a positive, but India's macro is flashing some caution. So just want to put on board the April industrial IIP growth. That's the IIP growth for the month of April. It slowed to 2.7% versus 3.9% in March, and it's sharply below last year's figure of 5.2%. Also, gold prices, by the way, have declined slightly. And oil prices have climbed on account of supply concerns. But Nigel, today is the Nifty monthly expiry, and so far we've been ranged. It's been what, 24,500 on the way down to 25,000, 25,100 on the way up. What will expiry throw up for us?
That's right. That should be the broad range, 24,650 on the downside and 25,050 odd on the upside. Now, if you're looking at the rollovers getting into expiry day, the Nifty rollovers actually are a little bit higher than what we have seen in the past series. So at around 70%, previous series it was at around 65%. Though the Nifty Bank, that's more or less in line. For the market on the whole, the rollovers are fairly in line with what we see getting into an expiry day. So that's about the rollover picture. Well, moving to what the FIs did, well, they added shorts. They added shorts both on index futures. They added close to 9,000 shorts, while even on stock futures, they added close to 30,000 short contracts, while they unwound some longs. This could be, though, some kind of arbitrage that's taking place, getting into expiry day. A bigger trend, though, will emerge from tomorrow. But I like a market with some shorts in the system, and that's been the trend for the last many, many months. So if you look at the FI positioning, from around 30,000 short contracts, well, that number has moved all the way to around 80,000 short contracts. Shorts in the system is not such a bad thing, and FI shorts was something that actually this market was missing. But will require some good news to actually make them squeeze the shorts out. Clients on the flip side, well, they are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Clients, that's the domestic big players, they have net long positions on the market to the tune of close to around 70,000 contracts or thereabouts. But today, since it's expiry day, we'll have to keep an eye on the options data. And that's going to be very, very important. And the PCR, last week it hit a high of around 1.2. That's cooled off to around 0.7. It's at the lower end of the band because the call writers, they believe they've got this covered just for today at least, till the end of the series. That's why you're seeing aggressive writing at around the 24,800 call, 24,750 call, extremely active in yesterday's trading session. But there is some writing being seen at the 24,750. So just plugging the numbers, looking at the options data, well, you'll get the levels that come up for you on the screen. On the upside, 25,080, that's been a bit of a resistance mark. We visited that mark, in fact, earlier this week, and it got rejected. So this is the resistance zone that you're looking at. You know, the Nifty can actually trade above the 25,000 mark for some part of the trading session, getting into the expiry hour, then anything can work out there. But on the downside, you don't want to see this level getting broken out. 25,000, 24,600, 24,650. It has the 20 DMA as well out there. But since it appears the tariffs could take a bit of a backseat just in the near term, and we also have Nvidia's numbers that actually have been taken positively, I'll keep an eye out on two global-facing sectors. The metal index as well as the tech index, both of them will be in focus. The metal index will be interesting because the dollar index actually has strengthened a little bit. And from the metals pack itself, you had Nalco yesterday that ended at the high point of the day. In Guinea, we are seeing some of those bauxite mines where the leases are getting cancelled out. That's what could keep alumina prices elevated. So that's why I'll keep an eye out on Nalco. Very, very strong close is what we had yesterday. Maybe the alumina prices get some kind of support, which is good for Nalco. So that one's on my radar.
Okay, we'll watch out for Nalco for sure. Nigel, thanks for that.